Hi everyone, this is the second video of Monetary and Financial Economics B2. Okay, so today's lecture, we will cover the stabilization policies with a fixed exchange rate. Okay, today we will cover two components. The first one is stabilization policies with a fixed exchange rate. And the second one is the balance of payments crisis and capital flight. Now move on to the first topic, stabilization policies with a fixed exchange rate. So stabilization policies includes monetary policy, fiscal policy, and change in the exchange rate's fixed level. Okay, let's move on to the monetary policy and the fixed exchange rate. So suppose we are facing fixed exchange rate, so which is the expected future exchange rate is equal to the rate at which the central bank is pegging its currency. So we refer this rate as E0. E0 here. So now I want to show you the graph. Okay. So this is economy. This is the economic graph, and initial equilibrium is B at 0.1 here. So 0.1 is the initial equilibrium. So in this graph, the vertical line is exchange rate E, and the horizontal line is output. There is two lines, DD and AA. So this graph is based on the DDA framework. If you don't know the DDA framework, please go back to the slide. Sorry, the lecture slide. I didn't lecture slide. I didn't upload the lecture slide B1. And so if you don't know the DDA framework, please check textbook. Okay. So initial equilibrium is 0.1 here. And then monetary supply is, so in here, monetary supply is a level where R equal R star, so domestic interest rate equal R star, the foreign interest rate, and it creates the domestic money market. Now, consider that the central bank increases the money supply through the purchase of domestic assets. Then what's gonna happen? Under the floating exchange rate system, the increase in the money supply causes an upward shift of A curve. So A curve shifts to the right, and then A curve will be A2 here. Then point 2 here is new equilibrium. So at the point 2, the currency depreciates from E0 to E2. So this is a case of floating exchange rate. But now we are considering fixed exchange rate. So under the fixed exchange rate, such depreciation is not allowed. So to prevent this depreciation, the central bank sells foreign assets for domestic money. So then the money supply falls and go back to the initial level, AA1. So AA curve goes back to the initial level, AA1. Then equilibrium also go back to the initial equilibrium, 1:1. So 0.1 is the overall equilibrium in this exercise. Okay, so therefore, everything does not change due to the monetary policy shock. Okay? Under the fixed exchange rate, central bank monetary policy tools cannot affect the economy's money supply or output. So output does not increase because even if the output increase is associated with the currency depreciation. So to prevent currency depreciation, money supply goes back to the initial level by the central bank intervention. So therefore, output goes back and the output does not change. Okay? So under the fixed exchange rate, central bank monetary policy tools cannot affect the economy's output or money supply. So the central bank's domestic assets monetary policy increase is offset by an equal decrease in the bank's official reserves to fixed exchange rate. So therefore, monetary supply is not affected. So the monetary policy cannot affect the entire economy. Then how about fiscal policy? How about fiscal policy? Let's move on to this slide, okay? So again, the left graph shows the vertical axis is exchange rate and the horizontal axis is output. There are two lines, DD and AA. So the initial equilibrium is 0.1 here. So now consider the fiscal policy. For example, a cut in the income tax. Sorry. Then a cut in the income tax causes DD shift to the right. So DD shifts to the right from DD1 to DD2. So under the floating exchange rate, new equilibrium gonna be 0.2 here. So at the 0.2, output goes up, and the currency appreciates from E0 to E2. But again, so this appreciation does not allowed in fixed exchange rate. So under the fixed exchange rate, there's an excess money demand. So there is excess money demand due to the increased output. So when output goes up, then the transaction demand also goes up. Then excess money demand is happen. So excess money demand is there at the point 2. So then central bank buys foreign assets with money, increasing the money supply, AA1 to AA2. So AA shifts according to the money supply increase. Then AA moves to, then new equilibrium is 0.3 here. So output goes higher. Furthermore, and the money supply and reserves are higher. So this is the final equilibrium, 0.3. At the 0.3, the output goes up from Y1 to Y3, and also the exchange rate does not change. Exchange rate is still either level. But money supply and reserves are higher, become higher. So as a result, fiscal policy can affect output under fixed exchange rate. Indeed, it's even more effective than under floating exchange rate. Since under the floating exchange rate, output is Y2 level here. Under the fixed exchange rate, output is Y3, so which is greater than Y2. So therefore, fixed exchange rate is more effective than the floating exchange rate case. Okay, now consider the new. Now I introduce a new term, devaluation and revaluation. So a devaluation occurs when the central bank raises the domestic currency price of foreign currency, E, exchange rate. A revaluation occurs when the central bank lowers the exchange rate. So this might happen, for example, if the country is quickly losing foreign exchange reserves because of a big current account deficit. Okay, so now consider the effect of devaluation on the economy. So now suppose a rise in the level of the fixed exchange rate from E0 to E1, depreciation, so which is called depreciation. Oh, sorry. So this is the graph of devaluation. So again, the horizontal axis is output and the vertical axis is exchange rate, E. So there are two lines, DD and AA. And the initial equilibrium is at point 1 here. So then a rise in the level of the fixed exchange rate, E0 to E1. So the exchange rate depreciates or devaluates from E0 to E1. So then devaluation causes domestic goods become more cheaper and output increases from Y1 to Y2. So this is because of export increasing. Then increased money demand also. So recall that a higher output causes a higher demand for transaction. So money transaction. So therefore, excess money demand happen. So an increased money demand pushes up home interest rates without the central bank's intervention. But recall that under the fixed exchange rate, domestic interest rate must be equal to the foreign interest rate. So this is the necessary condition for the maintain fixed exchange rate. So to fix the exchange rate at E1, the central bank must buy foreign assets and expand the money supply AA1 to AA2. So AA curve shifts to the right from AA1 to AA2. Now here is new equilibrium. Output goes higher and the exchange rate can be kept at the E1 level. So the exchange rate keeps the E1 level at the new equilibrium point too. Okay. In summary, devaluation causes a rise in output, a rise in official reserves, and an expansion of the monetary supply. So it's effective for expanding output, especially for governments with large fiscal deficits. In the case of government having large fiscal deficits, it's difficult to conduct fiscal policy because expanding fiscal policy tends to cause large fiscal deficits. Okay, so devaluation also improves the current account. So the devaluation makes the domestic goods cheaper. Then export is so the current account is improved because of an increase in the export. Okay. Also, if the central bank is running low on reserves, a sudden one-time devaluation can be used to draw in more reserves. So because devaluation causes an expansion of monetary supply and official reserves, it's a central bank can get much more reserves by doing devaluation. Okay, so now move on to the, oh, sorry. Okay, so now we'll move on to the second topic, balance of payments, crisis, and the capital flight in the next video.